All right, we're going to look back at some of the more interesting stories of the weekend in the Allianz Football League. Billy Joe Padden will join us on the line shortly, but Mike Quirke is with us. Evening, Mike.
Good evening, guys. How are you?
So you were down in Killarney on Sunday watching Kerry beat Donegal. The David Clifford factor saw a crowd over 10,000 turn up. He laid on a goal in 3, scored a point from a free, yet still mixed enough reviews. I was going to ask, did he live up to the hype? But I'm guessing unless he scores 4-4 in every game, he's never going to be able to match the hype.
No, the hype is a bit unrealistic for a guy making his first senior appearance in a Kerry jersey, but it was crazy, it was mostly probably because of David Clifford, but with all the rest of them, with all the influx of the young guys, I mean, it probably went up about 6,000 people on the last game that was played in Killarney in a first round National League game against Roscommon. Fair enough, a bad day, but still it was about 4,000 and change with that game, and you'd well over 10,000. There was traffic jams like Munster final trying to get into the game. It was great. It was great. It was exciting. It was something different and not something we're used to for a first round National League game.
Watching Clifford in last year's minor final, it was a bit like watching Jonah Lomu trampling all over the English players in the World Cup semi-final. The natural physicality, though, of senior inter-county football, I'm not necessarily talking about special treatment of being man-marked or that, but the regular battle for the breaking ball, jostling with your marker, how do you get on with that side of his game?
Yeah, that's going to be the thing for him. I think, he had that distinct, like you mentioned, Lomu. He had that distinct size advantage over every other minor in the country last year. And I'm not even talking about his football ability, which was obvious to everybody. But in terms of his physicality and his size, he was dominant over everybody else he's played. And the big challenge for him here isn't going to be whether his football or his decision making is up to inter-county level. His biggest challenge is just going to be how quickly he can acclimatise to the pace and to dealing with guys who are equally as strong and as quick and as physical as he is. And I think that was, you could see that, he won probably half of the ball that was kicked towards him. He was under pressure, winning any kind of a ball. And especially when the ground is a little bit soft now and it's an equaliser, that's going to be his challenge. He did okay, he did fine. He wasn't anything spectacular, but you could still tell every time he got the ball, which is the greatest trait of his, is he just tends to make the right decision. His kicking was a little off. He was probably a little nervous. It would be hugely, unusual if he wasn't nervous with the hype around him. But still, he had the presence of mind to make good decisions, and I think that categorised him even as a minor. As unbelievable as his scoring exploits were, he still used to give the ball to the guy in the best position despite the hype and despite the noise around him, and that was something you could see with a ball he slipped across to Stephen O'Brien for a handy goal. Another guy could easily have turned there and tried to force off his shot and try to keep feeding the hype machine, but he was just interested in making a good decision, which is a great characteristic.
Because so much of what we would have seen in the glimpses at minor level were him being able to be that flat track bully, and I just wonder, having been able to be that for maybe 3, 4, 5 seasons while growing up, that you can possibly lose some other parts of your game, the skillful side of your game, that sort of peripheral vision, that maybe he didn't need to work as hard on other parts of his game. Would you have got that from him over the last few years, that it was almost too easy for him and he needs to reset now that he's at senior level?
I certainly not in terms of his skill set or his vision or his ability to pick a pass or make the right decision. I think that stuff is there, like a guy who's played senior inter-county, for 5, 6, 7 years. He has that. He's far further ahead than guys who've been involved in the panel for a number of years. He has that ability in him. I just think the only thing, and when people talk about patience, the patience is just going to be how long it takes him to actually acclimatise to winning the ball inside as an inside forward. Like, he's never seen the type of environment he was surrounded with last Sunday when, he was being marked by a guy who was Quillen Ward for a while who had a pretty decent game himself and as a young guy for Donegal, and then he had another guy in front of him. At times he had one other guy in. So anytime he was getting the ball, he was being tackled, and nothing untoward, nothing dirty, nothing cynical. It was good, hard, honest defensive stuff from Donegal, but again, the intensity and the time and the ball and the lack of time, and you got one touch to win the ball against Donegal in that kind of an environment, and if you want 2 touches here, there's a guy on top of you taking the ball off you, and he's all the rest of the stuff is there, and that will come with time, and the more game minutes he gets, the more competitive minutes he gets under his belt, you can be sure that ball winning and that quickness of getting in your hands and moving on will come pretty quickly with him.
What can you do in training to speed up that process? Like, is that a strength issue? Like, right now, is he strong enough to deal with being man-marked by a Philly McMahon or a Johnny Cooper?
But I suppose what's going to improve it is training. Is going to be being marked by the guys who are quicker and stronger than they were last year at minor level. Like none of us are the same as we were physically when we were 17 or 18. You give a 17 or 18-year-old a year or 2 years of dealing with guys here who are at the top of the tree in terms of their athletic, physicality and how quick they are and how able to move they are. And you just adjust to your environment. And his environment now is being marked by guys who, like your Philly McMahons, like everybody else at that level, who are really, really good at their job. And he's too good not to just adjust to his environment pretty quickly. But it's going to take a couple of, a lot of training and a lot of stuff, playing games and loads of minutes there. And it'll come. I've no question he's going to be a guy in, maybe not this year. We mightn't see, obviously we're not going to see the best of him this year. But like once this guy gets to the pitch of things, he's going to be a guy who wins ball every time. He's too strong and too crafty not to be in that vein.
In the build-up to the game in the league, we were saying how this could so play into the hands of Paul Ganey and James O'Donoghue that if everybody's focusing on Clifford, suddenly you've got two of the most electric forwards in the country that nobody's really thinking about. Also, for the other young players in Kerry, nobody was talking about them. There were 8 debutants for Kerry on Sunday, and a player like Seanie O'Shea, who ordinarily we might be absolutely raving about in the weeks leading up to a league appearance like this, sort of managed to float under the radar. He was captain of the minors in 2016, played centre forward on Sunday and was the star of the show in many ways. What's this guy got all about him?
He's got all of that, and another box of tricks with him. He's physically, he's as much the same as Clifford in terms of his size, but he's probably that little bit more athletic, that he covers ground really well. He works hard. He's aggressive. He's got, he's a guy, like you said, that we should be really excited about down in Kerry, and a guy that I think is ready made to make the step up right now. I don't think he needs a lot of time. Now, he probably, he was nearly, as they'd say in America last year, he was nearly red-shirted. He was training with the squad all year last year without playing any competitive minutes, which a lot of people in Kerry were kind of surprised at, because we were seeing the guy at club level and he was dominant, and he was, running past people and kicking scores, and we're saying, well, why aren't we seeing this? And at the county game, but he got his chance the last day, and I think he put everybody's fears to bed that maybe he wasn't up to that level, because the guy is, he's got it all. He's got the game. Even the free taking, I thought was really impressive. I know it's like, you look at his numbers, he scored 7 points, he scored 3 from play, and you're saying, look, 4 frees. But like one of those frees was in injury time. It was 40 yards out on a swirly, windy day. It would have been, you wouldn't have minded, like a young guy deferring to Paul Ganey in that situation, say, okay, Paul, will you take this one? But he didn't want any of that. He wanted the ball, he wanted the responsibility, and like for a young guy taking that kind of on his shoulders already in his first ever senior start is very encouraging from a Kerry point of view.
And also stepping in what could have been a little bit of a problem position for Kerry ever since Declan O'Sullivan retired. That centre forward, to have that strength, to have that awareness. I know Gooch stepped in for a season, but probably a very different type of player to somebody like Seanie O'Shea.
Yeah, he's got all the attributes that you really like, and it's just, it's exciting. I think that's we're not. No, I hope people aren't getting overly carried away and thinking that Kerry are going to dominate the next 5 All-Irelands or anything like that. It's going to take him time. It wouldn't shock me if he went out against Mayo and maybe didn't set the world on fire. It's going to take all of these guys time to acclimatise and to adjust to the pace and to the different guys. Like you need to be on the circuit a little bit before you actually, about different guys' nuances and how they like mark and what they like to do, and once they build up all that kind of information, he's got it all. And again, he's not a guy you'd have any fears for. And long term, you would imagine that he'll find home at number 11 for Kerry for a good number of years.
Yeah, suddenly you're looking at a front six maybe of Seanie O'Shea, Donegal Walsh, O'Brien, O'Donoghue, Clifford, Ganey. It's a pretty frightening prospect. The one guy out of those 6, James O'Donoghue, who's maybe had quite a few injury problems now over the last 2-3 seasons and has been in and out of the side. And if Eamon Fitzmaurice is looking at a full forward line of Ganey, Clifford and O'Donoghue, are there concerns at all in Kerry about O'Donoghue's long-term fitness and whether Fitzmaurice can trust him to be part of that front three?
Well, I think there's no, like, the guy has just been. I don't know the exact nature of his injuries. Obviously, I mean, he came on and he was gone off. I didn't even realise he was gone back off after 6 minutes or whatever it was after tweaking his calf, I think, on Sunday. And it just seems to be a kind of a constant reoccurrence of niggling. Nothing major, like he hasn't done. Thankfully, he hasn't done cruciates or ruptured big hamstrings or anything like that. But it seems to be these just kind of soft tissue things that just keep reoccurring with him. And I know, like, I mean, they used to be training somewhere that we were close to training, or where we were training with our club side, and the guy used to be doing a huge amount of one-on-one stuff and rehab stuff to build himself up to make sure these things weren't happening. And sometimes you can just go through a run of these things where you can't do anything more about it to prevent them happening, and he just seems to be locked in that stage at the moment where he can't catch a break, and I mean, if he gets any bit of a run at form, he's a guy who can still pose serious threat line, and if you had something like a fit James O'Donoghue, a Paul Ganey, and whether it be David Clifford from the start or from the coming on, or a Barry John Keane or a Stephen O'Brien, or you've got plenty of options there, but you just really want a marquee guy like James O'Donoghue fitting well, because he turns you into a much more potent attack when he's there.
So it's Mayo, Castlebar Saturday night next up for Kerry. Like, your sense of what Fitzmaurice will do during this campaign, does he keep throwing O'Shea, Clifford, these young players in every game, or do you use them a little bit more sparingly than that?
Well, I mean, traditionally you would have thought that you'd have maybe 10 or 12 kind of established guys, and then you might throw in 2 or 3 other guys to gain that experience. But I mean, what we saw last weekend was a complete reversal of that. You had your 8 debutants, guys that maybe a lot of people didn't even hear of before, and the fact that you won, it's fine performing well and getting experience, but the fact that you won and got a brace of league points makes a big difference to your mentality going to Mayo. No, it's not a case of we have to win and maybe we have to rush back these older guys and I have to start ringing Anthony Maher and Donegal Welsh, so maybe they come back a couple of weeks earlier. No, that you have that bit of breathing space, and it's just, I think, you've got so many guys, something like 18 or 19 guys that are unavailable to play a championship in the last year or two, and I think now they can rest a little bit easier. Their phone won't be ringing from Fitzmaurice in the next week or two, and see how they go. I mean, from Kerry's point of view, there's a guy, Shane Murphy, that nobody's talking about in goals, the Crokes goalkeeper, who I think could be a complete game changer. And we never actually got a chance to see him because of the way Donegal played, in terms of when they had a man sent off when the young midfielder Mullins was sent off. They just dropped and they gave Kerry the kick out. But I'm very see how can he find targets, and you got like Cormac Coffey at cornerback, and Jason Foley at fullback. Like, there's a load of these guys that I just think the more game time they get, I think you'll start to see what they actually can deliver, and I think what they can deliver hopefully will be pretty good.
Great stuff, Mike. We'll talk to you soon.
Hey, hope you enjoyed that latest offering from Off the Ball. If you want to subscribe, and you should, check out just up here. All our latest stuff is just down here. Generally, knock yourself out.